Okay, everybody, this is going to be a little bit heavy. I'm going to leave the comments open on this, and if you have any respect for me as a person, like at all, I ask that you do not start fights with people or post bad faith garbage down there. Like, seriously, please. I'm no authority on any of this stuff, but if you have questions, I, and probably other people, will try to answer them. Some of you out there have probably never experienced a panic attack. If you haven't, imagine this with me for a moment. You're upset about something, or feeling anxious about something, in a perfectly reasonable way, like you have a good reason to be upset. And then suddenly, your entire body slams into fear for your life overdrive. You become certain that something horrible is imminent. You don't even know what you think will happen, necessarily, but you know that it's going to be bad. You know somehow that it might kill you, or it might even be worse than that. It's not a specific fear of a specific thing. It's like a general feeling of dread, and it is huge, and it is immediate. All of a sudden, your body thinks you can't breathe. You're involuntarily gasping desperately for breath. You feel nauseous, your heart is racing, you can feel your pulse pounding in your head. The rush of adrenaline has you shaking uncontrollably. You start crying. It's not like sad crying, it's desperate and animal, and it definitely does not play well with the thing that your lungs are doing right now. You can't think straight. The thoughts are whipping through your mind so fast that you can't even really understand them before they zoom off and are replaced with new ones. And part of you knows, with absolute certainty knows, that you are in terrible danger, while another part of you knows that this definitely isn't true. There's nothing you can do to resolve the situation, to get rid of the cause of the feeling, because there is no situation, there is no cause. All you can do is just sit there and marinate in it until it goes away. And the entire time, you feel simultaneously terrified and profoundly stupid and embarrassed for feeling terrified. It'll pass. It just goes away. But you will probably have to just sit there and feel like that for several minutes. And when it ends, you'll be hit by a wave of relief, but it will be accompanied simultaneously by both physical exhaustion and an overwhelming amount of nervous energy, which is a fun combination. And, of course, it will be accompanied by the shame of not being able to keep yourself from suddenly, unpredictably going to pieces. That's what happened to me yesterday. I have an anxiety problem, and part of the way that manifests is that when my emotions run high, especially for long periods of time, I sometimes have panic attacks. This happens to me like a couple of times a year, usually. I'm telling you this for two reasons. First, I want to establish some context for the reason that I try not to talk about current events in my videos. Sometimes creators who make videos about topics that people might consider trivial, like video games or anime, get backlash if they talk about political events or their beliefs. I've seen several occasions where a creator voices support for a group, and conservative commenters, and it is always conservatives, shout at them that they should stick to games, or, whatever their thing is, and not get political, which, to be clear, is nonsense, and they know that it's nonsense when they say it. I want to say this super clearly, for the record. I understand that there's very little that a human being can do that isn't political in some way, and you certainly can't apolitically broadcast words and thoughts to thousands of people, right? Performative apoliticism, that not getting political thing, is itself a political demonstration in defense of the status quo and existing power structures. And I hope that the fact that I avoid talking about current events doesn't come across to people as me trying to be quote-unquote apolitical in this way. And, especially, I make no attempt to conceal my personal beliefs, so hopefully that's clear. The reason I do it is that I'm trying to provide a space where people who have to live inside of their stressors, like, for example, a person who has to live with the fact that every time they go outside they might be targeted for harassment and violence because of their immutable physical characteristics, to not have to worry about that shit for a little while, After my panic attack yesterday, which was provoked by seeing no fewer than dozens of instances of police and soldiers, people with government backing, assaulting peaceful protesters, while Donald Trump promises that he will push for even more brutal violence, I had the luxury of unplugging and laying down and engaging in trivial pursuits, knowing that, at least in the short term, I and my friends and family and my people are basically safe. I could just step out of it for a while and be outside of it. Not everyone has that privilege, and I want to provide entertainment that doesn't just bring those people's stressors back up for them. Some of those people must have anxiety issues themselves, right? And I can't imagine that must be absolutely brutal. So maybe it's conceited for me to think that the very trivial, intentionally very trivial thing that I do is helping people in this way. But I know that when I get into a place where my anxiety and emotions are running high, I find videos that can mentally engage me about less terrifying things are very helpful in bringing me back down. So I hope that I can provide that thing for people in other situations who have their own issues with anxiety. The other related reason that I bring up my panic attack is that I want to point out that that's what this situation, by which I mean the escalating and rapidly spreading police brutality, the calls for intentionally poorly defined political enemies to be hunted down, which are not just coming from random fascist shitheads on the internet anymore, but also, sitting members of the government, like Congressman Matt Gaetz. That's what this situation is doing to me, a white dude who lives in a relatively safe place pretty far from anywhere that people are literally being shot by blunt force munitions on their own porches or tear gassed in their own home. And if either of those things I just said came as a surprise to you, do the research, stuff that's actually happening. If you are safe, like I am, take a moment to think of how the people who aren't safe must feel. As unpleasant as this is for all of us, as bad as this is for me, think how much worse it is for black people for whom the outcome of the struggle over police brutality and what we're willing to do about that as a culture may literally be a personal matter of life and death for them someday. Not just for the people at the protests, but for the people who have to worry every single day of their lives that they may end up on the concrete struggling to breathe. Look, it's easy to just let the immensity of the problem overwhelm you and push you into inaction because it seems like there's nothing you could do to solve it. But you don't have to solve it. You just have to do something. There's a Mr. Rogers quote that often goes around in times of distress. You're here on the internet, you've probably seen it before, that thing about looking for the helpers. It's uplifting, right? It's a beautiful sentiment. But we have to remember that Reverend Rogers was speaking to children. Adults can't stand back and look. We have to be the helpers if we want those children to be able to see any. Now, I can't tell you what the best way is for you to help. Please take it upon yourself to do research, and also listen to the black voices who are telling you what the problem is and what you can do. I have put some links in the video description, but don't let that be the extent of your engagement. Find someone who could use some help and help them. If you have links to resources that could use some attention or that you think would be helpful to people, please feel free to leave those in the comments below as well. So, now that that's all said, I'm going to go take a walk and try to level myself out, get something to eat, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to record some videos for y'all. And I'm not, in those videos, going to directly talk about what's happening, so that if you can't handle engaging with it anymore, you have a place to be and some stuff to watch to help you unwind. Those will start going up later tonight as soon as they're done. Please take care of yourself, everyone, and please provide whatever support you can to those who need it.